try to make it down to He's following you too.
All right, good evening and welcome everybody to the Sunnyside City Council regular meeting for Monday, October 24, 2022. We are going to go down the list for the roll call.
Mayor Johnson.
I'm here.
Councilor Beeler. Councilor Carmen.
Here.
Councilor Ripley.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Rikishi.
Here.
Councilor Hicks.
Here.
Councilor Hart. Manager Alpha. Here. City Secretary Adam Stevens. And Administrative Secretary Chief Anderson.
I'm here.
Public Works Director Fisher.
I'm here.
Community and Economic Development Director Martin.
Here.
And Attorney General Murphy.
Here. All right, everyone. And the council members will revisit that at the end of the meeting if they haven't shown up. All right, next item is invocation. Do we have somebody here this evening for the invocation? All right, I'll ask that everybody rise, please, for the invocation and remain standing for the pledge of allegiance.
Loving and merciful God, we thank you for allowing us to come together and serve our community. Life that happens within this life. We ask you to give wisdom to our council members, and they're the ones we have elected to serve the community. Ask that there be contributions from everybody involved for the betterment of all who live here, regardless of their status in life. We all ask all of this in your loving name.
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. And for the record, Councilor Hart and Councilor Beeler have arrived. All right, first item of business is public comments. Citizens are advised that they must limit their remarks to the council to 3 minutes. Council may refer items to staff to review and or research for presentation at a future council meeting. Becky, did you put up the sign up? The clerk is going to set up a sign up form on the podium there. If you would like feedback or follow up from your comments, please make sure that you sign your name and place your contact information on there so that we can respond. Just want to leave it up there so they can. Anybody signed up, has it? Recently, and I have to do that. All right, do we have anybody that'd like to make comments? If so, please approach the podium, state your name and city of residence, and make your comments. Once. Okay. All right, no comments this evening. Consent agenda. First item on the consent agenda is payroll vouchers. Approve payroll vouchers number 119180 through 119186 and wire transfers as listed for $456,404.16 for the period ending on October 11, 2022. Claim vouchers. Approve claim voucher numbers 104666 through 104667 104,746, and wire transfers listed for $189,223.72 for the period ending on October 12, 2022. Approved claim voucher numbers 104,747 through 104,791, and wire transfers as listed for $274,894.47 ending on October 19, 2022. Approved claim voucher numbers 104,792 through 104,2, and wire transfers as listed for $1,900 for the period ending on October 21, 2022. Any council members wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Is that a typo there with the 4792, 4792?
I believe there was only one item there for $1,900.
And this would be the postage for the change in printers.
Thank you.
Right, any other questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none, what is the desire of council?
Move to approve.
I'll second. Second. All right, motion by Councilor Hart, second by Councilor Hicks to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there debate on this item? None, Madam City Clerk.
Yes.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Councilor Farmer?
Yes.
Councilor Hart?
Yes.
Mayor Sexton?
All right, motion passes. Active agenda. Sixth Street Improvement Project. Consider authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Culver Construction Incorporated to construct the Sixth Street improvement in the amount of $4,664,358.60. City manager.
Mayor Rose, I will turn the
Okay, so we had a bid open on October 14th. We received bids, the low bidder being Culver Construction. The bid of 4.66. Our engineer's estimate was $200,000 delta there. Project, and we worked with Culver before. They did our downtown.
Council members, any questions for Mr. Fisher?
Is there any timeline on that again?
We're going to have a meeting next week to talk about schedule and timing. Because the DOT took so long to get the approval, it's going to push this into winter. That's what we're being up right now because we know we're going to plow and maintain. We're going to try to get in and get stuff done that we know out and get it back so we're not inconveniencing. No more than next week.
A little bit of a report of it as things move on, so we can know what to predict and we can answer questions knowledgeably. That'd be wonderful. Other questions for Mr. Fisher? No, for myself, this is a project I've been looking forward to for some time. I was disappointed it didn't happen this summer, but it does need to happen, so I think that's good thing. What's the desire of council on this item?
I'll move to approve.
All right, motion by Councilor Hart, second by Councilor Bueller to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Colbert Construction Incorporated to construct the Sixth Street improvements in the amount of $4,664,358.60. Based on this item. Not Madam City Clerk.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Mayor Rose?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci?
Yes.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Councilor Farmer?
Yes.
Councilor Hart?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item B, Orchard Avenue Stormwater Task Order Amendment and Contract Award. Consider authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Sharp and Kresler Construction to construct the Orchard Avenue Stormwater improvements in the amount of $172,597, and also amend Task Order 2022-05
And this will be changed, Commissioner, how it looks.
With an award, we brought this up. This was the on Orchard Avenue. Had a pipe hook to it. When Country Gals came in to do the, obviously that's where a lot is supposed to go out. So what this bid was for, the Orchard Avenue, the actual project itself is to construct those. The amendment task order is the construction, inspection, all the pipe takeoffs, everything for, and generally we have them do that. Don't do it normally during or before the contract goes out because it's based. I don't want to set the construction prior to the bids coming in. All based on percentage. So, so with that, what we want to do is we want to amend that task order to allow this as approved.
Council members, any questions for Mr. Fisher?
I just have one. I've sort of forgotten where Orchard Avenue is.
You know where Country Gals is going, they're going. So, it's west of Merritt.
Okay.
Beale Avenue.
Okay.
There, so if you move.
Oh, okay.
Orchard Avenue goes out, straight road, shoots up the, shoots. All their stormwater comes down. We don't want it to go directly into the. We'll put stormwater.
Kind of lost track of where it was at.
Questions for Mr. Fisher? Well, I have one. That Orchard Avenue, that is part of a larger development that's going to be water catchment can be enough. All the stormwater that comes down there, because as the streets get paved, it's going to be more and more stormwater.
Yeah, and we designed it around that. It's going to pick up above, that's all. It basically has a series of in-ground changes. At the end of the roadways, their pipe gallery, stormwater goes. We're taking this. That is our project.
Other questions? What is the desire of council on this item?
I'll second.
Right. Motion by Councilor Hicks, second by Councilor Ripley to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Sharp and Presler Construction to construct the Orchard Avenue stormwater improvements in the amount of $172,597, and also amend task order 2022-05 with HLA Engineering for engineering services during construction in the amount. On this item?
Yes.
Mayor Burisma?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci?
Yes.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Councilor Palmer?
Yes.
Councilor Hart?
Yes.
And President Brooks.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item C, ad valorem tax levy. Consider adopting an ordinance to approve an ad valorem property tax levy for 2023.
Corner and thank you, Madam City Manager. We can have the public hearing for this ad valorem tax increase. This is to increase their tax levy, the amount of the city's levy by 1%. So the total amount of that spread across the entire city is $25,000. In addition, this approves our general obligation bond payment, our general obligation bonds, and takes care of our refund levy from the previous full year. So when the state refunds money, it flows back through to us this way. So I know there was some discussion about times, even though it's just 1%, not approving it, but I just want to make sure that the council is aware. It is only 1% on the amount of money that property tax pays towards these regular voting tax levies. So not increase any of those other items. So that the obligation bond has its own rate. The refund levy is separate. And there's all the other jurisdictions that get taxed. But just the little portion that comes to the city, that would increase.
If you'll see, there's a handout, there's moratorium, and I actually property tax levy, Yakima County, but the city of Sunnyside rate is, so the 2022 voting tax was, if we do a 1% increase, be $138. Difference to the entire tax amount is $1.37. And if the person with the highest value home, so for some people, if your house value is lower, it would be lower.
I'm here and suggest that most of the objection to that was simply to make a point and to make sure that the community knows that council does kind of recognize that times are tough and that they are facing higher costs on every possible front, especially food and fuel, but this could be an expensive winter for people as well. And so when we talk about, this is an opportunity to not raise the tax, I understand it's not a very big, and $25,000 will help the city. But the point we were making at least I was making at that point, wow, things are getting expensive. And we know at the beginning of the next year, gas tax is going to go up as well, so that's one more expense so I think it was a symbolic perhaps gesture, and I think most of the city needs this, and it does kind of impact our ability to get grants and other funding. Possible avenue for revenue to state is going to help us out in any way. So we recognize that. That being said, council, is there any questions for Ms. Horner or the manager?
No questions. Sorry, Ms. Hart, go ahead.
What I was going to say is if Ms. Horner could, or Ms. Alva could again remind us, this is the distribution of the current tax on this piece of paper, is that correct?
That is correct. The person that pays the $2,360 portion of that tax.
And with the 1% increase, it's $1.37.
Correct.
That amount. Okay. So I really feel like that once we start not taking these increases, it always throws us behind the bus. So I think and that's never a good place to be, especially when we're looking at different things that we do need to be doing in the community when we are looking for grants. We're looking for a lot of grants right now with fires, with fire department, with the PD, with the economic development group. So I really think that it's the news is to go ahead and pass this 1%. I understand times are tough. I'm just like anybody else. I see that at the gas pump and every place else. But it's nevertheless, we really need to continue to take advantage of that 1% increase.
Any questions or comments from council?
From the last time we looked at this, I have gotten my greetings from the county. My taxes have went up tremendously, which the city gets a share of that. I realize this is hardly any money he's gonna generate from this. It's hardly any money that I'm gonna pay, but I just think it's something we're gonna help you as much as we can. The easy way of doing it is break us. That's easy to, about the citizens of this community and their plight. COVID hasn't been easy on a lot of people. All I had to do is drive by the food banks and just in there and $25,000. I understand staff's position on being able to go back and later they're gonna look at this, but as far as I'm concerned, $5,000 we don't have.
Other comments, questions?
I got a little different opinion, because I was on my farmer's last time. There's other places that we can help. This is so small, I think we can do it because it's future money all of next year's that. There's other things that we can look at that will make it. Everything's going up, it's also going up for the city. Me at home and my business, and that's about one of my properties. I have 2 properties, so I'll spend the extra $1.37.
Other comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I have to agree with my colleagues, especially Mr. Farmer. I agree. And Mr. Farmer will remember this. Something that's bothered me for years, and I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again because we have new members of council, is it always feels to me like the cart before the horse. I'm not sure why we adopt the ad valorem tax before we adopt the budget. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I'll just go on and saying that, Mr. Mayor, I realize that we have to do it. But at the same time, it just seems like we're always putting this before the horse. We don't even know what the budget looks like, and we're asking for the 1%. Now, on the other hand, and I'll play devil's advocate real here because I've testified before the state legislature on more than one occasion and been asked this question of whether or not my city took its 1% ad valorem tax. The legislature will look at us, and if we don't take it, it could affect us when it comes to getting other funding from the legislature in the future. Because they're saying, basically, we gave you a tool and you didn't use it. That's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
Second.
Was that used in the motion?
Yes, it was.
All right, so we've got a motion by Councilor Beeler, second by Councilor Hart, adopting an ordinance to approve the ad valorem property tax levies for 2020. Date on this item.
Tough decision, but we're here to make it.
I would agree with Mr. Beeler.
Fair call to make every year. All right, there's no debate. Madam City Clerk.
Marcy?
Yes.
Mayor Barba?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Councilor Farmer?
No.
Councilor Hart?
Yes.
And one vote.
Motion passes. Item D, preliminary budget. Receive the city manager's budget message and review and consider the 2023 full program.
I turn this over to Ms. Warner. I'd like to enter on a preliminary and in your hands. Storm of an opportunity happening at her home, and she managed to put this. So I wanted to send you. Thank you, Madam City Manager. You all have in front of you your binder with the full preliminary budget program. The city manager message outlines the ideas going into this budget can be found on page 7. But I'll just go over a few of the main points in this document. We do continue to emphasize being prudent fiscally. We look at every line item and make decisions on whether or not we think we can increase or if we can decrease. We do decrease our line items every year if we don't need money. But unfortunately, and fortunately for us, the city is, and we cannot deny that. So there are increases in here that we really can't ignore because we can't stop people from moving to town. More people require more services. The total revenues for our financial program this year are less than our total expenditures. Notable. And I want to point out the reasons for that is because our ARPA money is all appropriated through this budget. So everything that we have spent so far is appropriated within this budget. So we earn, or we not earn, but we received in 2021 and 2020. Of that total money, we have only some tiny portion of that. We have sort of discussed how we're going to use it. So we went ahead and put those appropriations into the budget. We likely won't spend all of that money before the end of 2023. We have to spend it before the end of but those expenditures as the council has directed are included in the 2020. And additionally, there are some other one-time expenditures that are in. Those items are things that different funds have been saving up for improvements. Mr. Fisher, water, street. There's multiple different projects ongoing that the city is using for self-funding. And so another thing that has sort of skewed the numbers, so it looks like we're spending more than we're bringing in, but all of those account for whole budget is only a 1% increase so far for 2022. Entire expenditures are only 1% higher than what has already been approved by council for funds. We have done the best we possibly can at keeping all of those increases as low as possible, but also reasonable so that we're not surprised. Not just we can avoid by the inflation and the ways that things are going up. There are significant increases in the cost of goods and services already feeling and that are heading our way. And in addition to that, there is increased benefit costs. On the second page of the city manager, we went over some of the enhancements that we had requested in regards to. We did take the comments that the city council has given us at both of the budget retreat and the previous in regards to additional staffing. And we did, as we said, we combined some of those. We used, we are putting in place an internship and use interns as much as possible. And then one of the biggest issues, which is totally understandable, is funding salaries and personnel costs with one-time revenue. Also, back in June of this year, approved additional positions in the police department with ARPA funding. Funding is one-time funding. So when we looked at this and we looked at the places that have cut staffing, added, those positions have not been filled at this time. But while those positions are still approved, did not fund and the two designated crisis responder positions under grant writer. Those positions we've all been in recruitment, and we still have them open. So it's hard to recruit for police as best we can. And the designated crisis responder positions, there's no area university that's putting out people that do these jobs. There are mental health, comprehensive mental health, that their job is to try and find people that do have recruitments that have been open for months and months. So unfortunately, we're just not finding people that can do this work. Most currently, we thought for us to go forward to keep those positions as authorized, meaning if the council wishes to amend the budget at a later date and add them back in, we can do that, but right now they're not funded in fund year 2023. And with that, I'm going to answer any
Members, any questions?
What you said is, hired everybody that we out last June. That's what we want to do here, if we do stay on the budget.
That's correct.
So we want to, our employees set on the budget basically, and still.
So the city manager and I spoke, and there are other ways to use the ARPA funding. When we have those initial discussions about where that funding was going to go, you guys did not obligate it. So you haven't officially talked about where it needs to go. So the city manager and I in discussion, she said that at the time there's other ways that we can use that money, and we have. So it allows us to free that money up for something else.
Are we going to close out the looking at?
Right now, there's still other open police positions, there's recruitment. So there's still other open positions in addition to these three. So right now, we're not closing any recruitment.
As we have held open for our.
No, once we fill up to where we're at right now, we'll stop doing recruitment, except we may continue to maintain a list. Because police come and go, and it's really hard to wait until you have an opening to post a position. It's easier for the police department if we keep those. We constantly have a list to draw from. Or if we do free up some money somewhere, we can refund one of these positions and put somebody in place right away.
Thanks.
Out of the positions that were approved there, without the ARPA funding, bringing them back in, off that, the paid employee versus an.
So, if you'll recall, we did, in one of those presentations, I believe it was at the budget work, I talked about a study that I had done across the state about funding levels for city staff in cities that had similar services to us. All that. So when I did that study, our current staffing levels that have been approved with the ARPA funding, our police department was actually above those, not by a lot, but by a little. So budget cannot accommodate those positions the way that it is right now, and there are other positions that the city manager believes are more essential based on the growth of the city. So the example of that would be the legal liaison, deputy clerk, records clerk, and the planner and assistant. Other areas of our business that we are understaffed in order to handle the growing business that we have. So it's kind of a trade-off of general fund money to fund right now. Money out of the place.
But you also mentioned that one of the things that's kind of a holdup for us is there's the designated crisis responders. Are they just not coming, not finding them, even though we're recruiting for them? Are we just not finding the type of person that would fall into that category?
Yeah, and truthfully, the recruitment has not ever been posted from a us hiring somebody perspective. Don't necessarily have the knowledge or the hire mental health staff like that. That sort of training. So we were looking at and doing a contract to have that those discussions that I have with third parties. Ones that advise that there's no, they have so many open positions, there's no one for them right now. I believe there was a university, and I am actually
additional, workers. On the east side of the state of the farm. That's
This sort of sounds to me like a catch-22, in the sense that they're not sending them out of college. There's openings, but we can't keep them in the area.
On a different scale, but and we have the grant writer position open these 3 months, and that was posted and advertised and sent to every nonprofit up and down the valley, to every organization that we could think of, and we used a applicant that was qualified enough to do the, in fact, I think overall we only ever received one. We received a couple of questions from people, but I believe we only received one actual resume for that job. And so when you have a job market like we have right now, people can be, and unfortunately, we can't really increase our salaries enough to compete with maybe hiring staff.
I'm sorry, I missed it. So in this budget, we are hiring no new police officers.
That is not correct. So initially, with the ARPA funding, there was 5 police officer positions, 4 patrol and 1 detective, and 2 designated crisis responders. That maintains 2, a detective and a police patrol position in this budget that's funded with ARPA at this time. So theoretically, don't expend that ARPA money in another way. We could still appropriate for those positions to cover them up until 2020. Get to the point in 2024 where we still have the budget for that, because it has to be obligated by the end of 2024 and be spent through 2020. We could drag those positions along for a couple additional years as the ARPA funding remaining.
How many detectives do we have now? Currently, we have operating as 2 detectives, 1.
Comments?
You probably have. I will look to make sure. You have probably, maybe even more than that, because you probably have 7 that can walk a race. All these positions. All these positions and some experience.
If you look on your budget binder, page 16 and and compensation cycle. So this will show you the authorized positions citywide. And the police guild union section is the second on page 16. So you'll see there we actually do have 24 police officers, detectives. We have 6 sergeants. So, and then we also have funded 2 police commanders and the chief, obviously. That's how many commissioned officers we have.
The 2 new detectives that we're going to have to buy 2 more cars.
We are already, we entered that as management. So we're putting all of our vehicles on a schedule for So we were already scheduled to have police cars to expense $20 off.
I understand what
The initial proposal from Enterprise Fleet Management was to sell what we could, but because we are in a position where we are adding staff, honestly, we believe likely what would happen is we would retain some of the cars that were still usable. However, we did come across a couple of vehicles that we weren't expecting necessarily to. We bought two from another, that another agency had ordered dealership nearby. So we're still keeping our eyes open for as many vehicles as we can get for total cost.
Well, for my 2 cents in worth, I am always impressed with how all of you guys get this together. Anybody who talks to me for 5 minutes knows that I'm not a numbers guy. But we sit up here as council and we proclaim and we argue and debate and discuss, and in the end, we come out with sometimes some mandates, some things that we're uncomfortable with, and you guys somehow manage to make it work. And if you can't make it work, you explain why. And that certainly makes me understand why it's not going to work to do what we said that we wanted. So I appreciate that. You guys put a tremendous amount of work into that. And the results have been very good for the city for the last couple of years. And so thanks for all the effort in there. The fact that we're not going to be using ARPA money, one-time money to hire career positions, I feel good about that because it's still, I just don't like to hire somebody and have them hanging out there and say, hey, we're not going to be able to hire you back next year. That just makes me very uncomfortable. So I appreciate the fact that you thought that through. And I also know that you've got a backup plan in place so that if things do change around, we can certainly themselves to be willing to work and fill these positions will be on. So that's good thinking, good planning ahead. It is somewhat disappointing that some of these positions that all of us on council felt were important, simply we're going to have to drop it off just because those people don't actually exist. Crisis counselors, it sounds really great. It'd be a wonderful thing to have. In theory, it's absolutely beautiful. It'll function great, but that's sort of a daydream, isn't it? Because those people don't exist, and if they do exist, for whatever reason, they don't want to come to Central Washington. And I think this is a more interesting part of the state to live, and why wouldn't they want to come here? There it is. So thank you for your work on that, and also your explanation as to why our expenses are higher than our income. Those expenses already exist in our accounts, and they're just waiting. So I appreciate all of that. Council members, do you have any further questions? Right. Do you have more for us on this, or?
I do not. If you guys have any questions as you go through the budget, at the first meeting of November, I believe we're going to have a continuation of budget talks. If you have questions, call me, come by my office. I'm happy to discuss things with you and tweak, look at little things that you have ideas on, or whatever, so we can get to the point where things are.
We will all be reading it eagerly every night. Know that?
You just said you don't like numbers, so
I
somehow I'm not sure.
I promise you, I will read it from cover to cover, whether I understand it fully or not.
That's where the questions will come in, right?
Yes, exactly.
And truly, I am available, so.
All right, next item then. Is E, the ILA Port of Sunnyside Pacific Ag Project. Consider authorizing the city manager to execute a special project agreement with the Port of Sunnyside.
So we have been approached by Pacific Ag to bring a project to support business partners. And this would kind of be the very first, I don't know if I would say anchor, but it's the one that opens up at the 500 acres. It will make it so that we can further assist with their economic development of the business park in the Erie Gold area.
We have, seen mock-ups of what they want to do. And this project will probably lead to 2 other big industries to come there. So we think that by entering it was a win-win for this.
Council members, questions or comments from Ms. Alba?
Timeline on these businesses moving in?
Well, you know, we have one project that we've been working on for over a year. Almost selected us, gotten very, very close. They have indicated that if this project comes, it would make it even more favorable for us. So they've done the legwork and they know kind of on. The tag is ready. They've got their drawings and engineering firm, so they're ready.
And this is in the, up towards Midvale Park, of Midvale.
Actually, be off of map in Sunnyside. So it would start opening up that land that's all along up in Sunnyside High and deeper into the park. There is 500 acres there that would open up.
Got an estimate of how many jobs this particular?
This one won't bring a ton of jobs, but I want to believe it was 25 to 35 jobs. 44 jobs? Okay. No, 44 jobs.
So I had a meeting with the folks from Pacific Ag this summer, and it was, I thought, a very good meeting. It was very interesting. They had originally proposed a site due west of town, and we had a long discussion about why they could possibly think about different work. We had for many years the issue of the feedlot due west of town and all the dust and the odor that came from that. While they promised that the digester project would not have bad odors, I am grateful that they did decide to move into the port, because even if there isn't, there's the perception of odors, and people living in town are going to think that it's coming from there, and so I think this is better PR for them. I was pleased. I looked at their plans, and I have since visited not their sites, but I've seen other digester sites in different places and seen how they function, and I thought that it was I was impressed with some of the stuff that some of these companies are doing. What I saw wasn't Pacific Ag. The odor is practically non-existent. Unless there's some sort of a problem somewhere, nothing is going to be released into the atmosphere. Neighbors aren't going to suffer from that. This is something really huge in the Central California dairy country. So I've had a chance to look at a couple of those projects and talk to project managers. And I think overall this is something that can turn into so. All right, what is the desire of council on this item?
Motion to authorize city manager to execute a special project amendment to Port of Sunnyside.
Second?
I'll second it.
This one is name better this time. All right, we got a motion by Councilor Hart, second by Deputy Mayor Succi to authorize the city manager to execute a special project agreement with the Port of Sunnyside. Debate on this item. Hearing none, Madam City Clerk.
Councilor Ripley,
Yes.
Mayor Gordon,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Succi,
Yes.
Councilor Stewart,
Yes.
Councilor Hicks,
Yes.
Councilor Farmer,
Yes.
Councilor Hart,
Yes.
Mayor Gordon.
Thank you. Motion passes. Item F, Fire Recovery USA Vendor Agreement. Consider authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Fire Recovery USA to perform fire department non-EMS cost recovery services. Madam City Manager.
We'll turn this over to Fire.
The council back in 2018, fire mitigation cost under SMA. Basically, these are fees that the city incurs. These are billed third party. Sometimes we haven't had to do it yet, but or someone did something negligent or more civil. Anyway, so these fees, we looked at have been very successful. The fees have been sort so there's some expertise that comes. Our EMS vendor, and then when they did that, make sure other than Fire Recovery USA and systems. The difference though was systems for invoicing only on a number of what they would give it as a front. The county sent them all whether we cost recovery, fire recovery, Ohio, that they collect 20 parking places and they, however, have also certain fire cost recovery. So when we find
Any questions for Chief? Chief, when we started using this EMS services, what kind of
the third party,
yeah?
I don't know the number, I don't know my head, but when we I think it's so absolutely. The way it works now is, and I see. So I will send it out. And so it's a little bit cumbersome for me to kind of keep up. After the third party vendor would be.
They do all the follow-up and
Sounds good for like structure fires, house fires, factory fires, field fires.
So, yeah, so basically, we play some of our engines. What people don't know is, like I said, most people don't know that there's a their insurance fee.
other questions, comments? Hearing none, what's the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve. I'll second.
Motion by Councilor Bueller, second by Councilor Hicks, to authorize the city manager to execute Fire Recovery USA to perform fire department non-EMS costs on this item.
Councilor Ridley,
Yes.
Mayor Burisma,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci,
Yes.
Bueller,
Yes.
Councilor Hicks,
Yes.
Councilor Farmer,
Yes.
Councilor Hart,
Yes.
Mayor Sutton.
Thank you, motion passed. Item G, project project agreement with City of Grandview for the cooperative use of assistant medical services officer. Consider authorizing the city manager to execute a special agreement with.
Your first one, I'm going to ask Chief Anderson to report out on this one. And the audience is having a tiny bit of, not being able to hear you, so if you could get closer.
Thank you, Madam City. This is, another item, basically, longstanding, the other cities in the area. For the sharing of facilities, personnel, and equipment. Earlier in this year, well, for this 2022. Grandview has now, one of the skill sets in that role is actually going to be making. Grandview has actually reached out and asked that we could share that individual of their training programs so that we can further standardize and integrate. They've offered up $24,000 a year, and the individual, which equates to about 20% of that individual's time, he would be down there on average 8 hours a week, but he would remain as an employee, full-time employee. They would like to reimburse the city for those services.
Any questions from council?
Just real quick, how much a year?
I think it's a total of $24,000, $2,000 a month.
That's that.
Any question on our end?
Like having the revenue rather than the, are we gonna do this with any other cities in the?
I'm not opposed to bringing things. Person doing very best, rather than create redundant.
Other questions? I guess my comment is kind of on the lines of Mr. Beeler's, where we had an agreement with Prosser and Grandview. It's like, how is that going to work with that agreement? Is that individual going to offer training to those communities as well? Is that the long range plan?
This is the agreement that I spoke of. Allows for special. This was just a Grandview and Sunnyside. So the, I'm sorry, if that's what you were asking. The other cities doesn't.
They would have to come forward with a separate special agreement in order to make that happen.
Is there a time limit on this agreement, or is it open-ended? They actually budgeted money, so we were, earlier in the year, something so. Sports, so they can plan.
Comments? Seeing none, what's the desire of council on this item? Motion by Councilor Hicks, second by Councilor Ripley to authorize the city manager to execute agreement with Grandview. Date on this item? Report.
Councilor Ripley?
Yes.
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci?
Yes.
Councilor Beeler?
Yes.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Councilor Farmer?
Yes.
Councilor Hart?
Yes.
And seven yes.
Thank you, motion passes. All right, item 4, items from council members, mayor's appointments for boards and commissions. You have one. This was an interesting situation. You know, in years past, we have had openings in boards and commissions, and we had a hard time finding candidates, genuinely qualified candidates. For this particular position in the planning commission, I had multiple candidates who were all qualified and eager to serve, and that made making my selection a little bit difficult. But in the end, I chose Ingrid Ramirez, who has a position with the county and also related to the kind of work that should be. And so at the next meeting, we will bring her forward to office and move her forward for that. We are considering another position for someone board as well, and so that information will be shortly. Next item, council request status report.
Yes, would you like to out on the work for the on the record?
Absolutely. So, we are, so I am, but, I'll talk about it right now. So on Thursday, October 27th, we are meeting at Vital Brewing. They're coming. Do a design, kind of like, art in the Roger Brooks report. So that's the around the town. The goal is to eventually use those towns to dive into the Roger Brooks. So that's what we're going to be doing this week. And then we are, again, we're kind of pulling up the items. That's what we're doing in the immediate.
Mr. Martin.
In the water tower project, I'm going to put on the shoulders of Mr. Fisher. One side is just trying to get on that. Since he is the public works, the water tower that needs something. We have to, number one, figure out how to fund, how a professional come in and do this. So we will need to start the process, and I think that part of it is a winter project where we can out and find some that actually can come in and want to get some bids.
We can fund it through the water fund balance. That was the going rate, it could go up, but there are plenty of painters out there that will probably do that.
I'm so excited about that.
The water on top of the hill is
Needs to
non-remarkable.
stand out more.
Noise ordinance and code enforcement. Separate things, and I'm thinking that some because I know in code enforcement we've had several actions and the abandoned homes that have.
Yeah, so, we are, need to move forward on our code enforcement action. And, we lack of upkeep, and safe with forward with code. But it could. That's kind of the stuff.
And yes, both ordered, but
Is the fireworks. I think Chief Anderson is ready to go. We still need to go to public safety and discuss, want to regulate, not regulate, have direction, and then we're ready to.
Right, thank you. If any council member has items that they wish to add to the council request status reports, talk to the manager, or you can speak up now.
I do have one.
Ms. Harts.
I would like to somehow, put back on our radar about the Yellowstone Trail markers. I think it's that project, is it a standstill right now, I believe?
No, the Yellowstone Trail property has actually so they also now own building in the corner. So eventually, because we've given us the right of way of Roman, they own the entire thing. I had a meeting with them and spoke with them. They would really, really like to use that for us to let it use the parking right now. We talked about just cutting out the marker. If there's a place at the museum, it could stay damage to it. And they do want to improve that lot. They are willing to do some kind of marker in the corner or something. But it is very awkward there for their business. Now they own that entire block. They willing.
That was always the possibility.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that they are willing to work with us and have regular contact and let them at their business. They've had the business for years. They want to make sure that they're in this. So we'll work with them, and they want to make sure it's a good. We have put up all the signs.
Another sign for that.
And,
We just need some sort of marker at the end
correct.
of the leave town, I think.
Yeah. And they are willing to let us.
Okay, I just wanted to throw that out there because I knew there was something that was still kind of, felt like it was still hanging out there. So, thank you.
And I've met the owners of that business a few times over the years, and they're very willing to cooperate, and they have ideas.
Great business.
I have been impressed with them at times. All right, other reports, announcements, and or questions by council, and normally I let everybody else go first, but tonight, because I'm the mayor, I'm gonna go first. And the reason I want to do that is because last week, Wednesday, we had our YB-COG dinner, and I just want to commend a number of people, our city manager, Mr. and Mrs. Beeler, and Councilor Hart, and the Lions Club all pulled together, and we had an amazing dinner. It was very well attended. Food was absolutely phenomenal. And so I don't know who the chef was. It wasn't, I don't think it was a Lions Club member, was it? But, okay. Well, the food was amazing. I had never had that particular dish before, and I really enjoyed it. So, and would you give me the name again, Mr. Beeler? Reladen.
And it was prepared by Chef Ray Fujira of the Sunnyside Lions Club.
Okay. So it was delicious. The facilities were phenomenal. Everything went really well. I unfortunately had to leave before the actual meeting, so I didn't get to attend another thing that I had to go to, but I heard nothing but good about it. So you were applauded and commended by council members from all over the valley. So well done. I'm very impressed, and you guys should be very proud of yourselves. And then the other item that was exciting and probably mentioned more than once at the YB-COG meeting was the fact that the Regional Crime Lab has been approved, and that made it on the news, and that was kind of exciting. This is something that we have been working on for a long time. As we all know, and as our police chief, I'm sure, is painfully aware of, the crime lab in the state of Washington, both of them are really backed up. And it can extremely long time to get the results back from something that is sent in. We get this crime lab up and running soon in the valley. It is going to be a very short period of time to get back. That will help us be able to track things, to be able to find people, to be able to make use of the evidence that's been left behind. And I think it's a huge use for our valley. And mayors and community members around the valley are supporting this. I think the city that's not excited about this is the city working on it. Anyway, that's my report. What else?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Susie.
Thank you, sir. You stole all my thunder, Mr. Mayor, but that's okay. I'm glad that you were able to get all that out. I wanted to personally thank you for coming to the meeting and for the city manager for coming as well. And for our delegate, Ms. Hart, who really knocked it out of the park, Ms. Hart. This was our first in-person meeting in over 2 years for the COG general membership. And so, Sunnyside is definitely going to go down in history. We had a great meeting. There was good information put out, great camaraderie, good networking, and of course, wonderful food. So I want to thank everyone. Mr. Beeler, especially, sir, thank you so much for volunteering your facility for us to have that event at. It was decorated wonderfully and we had a great time. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor, but I wanted to add that.
I believe this Danny Blackadall will have some photographs from the YDCOG meeting just to show off the decorations. So Mrs. Beeler, Peggy Beeler, zoomed around in her little scooter, her mobility scooter, her little speedster, and making sure the decorations were perfect. And thank you, Elizabeth, city manager, for your contribution to those to the decorations as well. It was really beautiful. I really didn't do very much except kind of direct traffic and try not to get run over by Peggy. So, so it was really, I really had fun doing it. It was kind of made me a little nervous, but everything worked out.
There are pictures up on Facebook.
I know there's a bunch of them in several places. I think some of them are from Peggy. But I do have a question. I just wanted to make a reminder about all of the fall festival stuff that's going on, and there may be some other about that, so I won't go too much into that. Enough this weekend. I did have a question. Where are we at standing with the townhouse?
I could have the regularly talk.
Last week.
I don't think the deputy mayor is able to hear you. Sorry, I think the microphone.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Mayor. I can't hear anything.
The litigation is going forward at this point.
Is that better, sir?
That's better. Yes.
Litigation is going forward. We're not prohibited through this league right now. He is enjoying our right out where the campsite is going. Typically trials for these types of how simple litigation. Trial date set. All of this, however, the city is not prohibited. we will have motion.
I think Mr. Martin would like to have visited and they have made some progress.
Sure, I'll also project. Yes, I went out there with our 2 building inspectors last week. We crawled through the crawl space, we looked at their fencing, we talked to Kim, and they've been busy. He kind of, we're helping search him, he gets along out of his hotel, kind of, so we had a good discussion when we were there. I don't know if you've driven past recently. There is a fence that is on up. The gates, I don't know if they're there right now, but they're supposed to give me a call as soon as the gates. But he has already noticed that cross traffic. He said. So we've been in good contact, and and
Other reports, announcements?
I got something. We talked about this for years. It's the worst it's ever been. That is estate sales, yard sales, and garage sales. Go on Schoon Road and Yakima Valley Highway. Signs still left there on the ground from 3 weeks. Now they're starting to put signs on our telephone posts, the light posts. Don't have the manpower to do it. We need to get these yard sales, garage sales, and estate sales under control. Have them fill out a form so we can go after these people that are keeping the signs out. Go out there right now. 16th and YBH. The road in YBH. Outlook Road going up. I got on this side of it. Getting out of control, and it's really turning our coming into Sunnyside. I'm going to bring that out.
No. A lot of heads nodding in agreement with Mr. Bueller. I think that his point is spot on. We've talked about this a couple of different times, others have brought it up. And it really does make the entrance to town look trashy. It's really understandable that on the day of the sale or the day before the sale, that the signs be put out. The sale, those signs need to be picked up and put away, and signs may not, under any circumstances, be put on the pole. That is against city code. So we need to make sure that people are aware of that. I know that they are supposed to get a permit, but I don't know that a lot of people are actually doing that. So when you get a permit, you also get the instructions on what you are supposed to do and what you're supposed to pick up. However, if you don't go to bother to get the permit, you don't see that. So somehow we need to get the news out there. We don't have a daily paper, but somehow or other that information needs to get out there. I don't think we can maybe do that on our city Facebook page. That might be one way to get that out. There's a couple of community-wide Facebook pages. That would be one way. So solutions to that problem. I know our police officers are awfully busy, and one more picking up. Not something that's going to be the best use of their. Firefighters are fortunate enough to have to do that. So, right, is that all? Moving on, upcoming council meetings, Madam City Manager.
To have it up, I'm going to try it on November 3rd. There is a special meeting. It is to hear public comment on the redistricting We've all been emailed to Matt. We'll make sure, take another look at those, so that it just needs to be right there. So that is our public hearing on redistricting. We will have the Amoresco Energy Savings presentation, new job descriptions, and then the preliminary budget work. So that's when you'll need to bring your questions about, so that staff can answer. November 14th, regular meeting, they'll have a public hearing on the preliminary budget, 2022 budget amendment number 3, and then redistricting. November 28th, public hearing on the final budget and adopt the 2020. And as you know, there will be lots of things added between towns. This is just kind of
City Manager, I do have a question for you on our Thursday, November 3 special meeting. On the announcement, it says that council has met and discussed this. Fairly accurate. Let's say that, doesn't it? I read that, I was pretty sure I remember.
Did we have something on that at one of our workshops?
We talked about it, but I don't think we decided anything, or I just want to make sure that we're being accurate in our announcement.
we just needed a workshop. We had a workshop meeting about.
Wasn't much we could do except to forward it on.
Right.
Yeah. This was the year that we had to do it.
Yes, it's great. This is something that we don't just get to waffle back and forth on. I think we have to. After pushing the deadline on this, so. So we will be meeting on that, and I don't imagine that it's going to take too long.
We will have Zoom available if council members aren't.
Right. Next item on the agenda is items from department heads. Manager.
I'm going to take the liberty that you took, and I'm going to go first. So, as many of you know, last week on Monday, we discovered that our bills, the notices for September and our bills for September were not mailed by our printer. That's probably half a day to investigate why, and the blame fell on the city and on the printer. So it really wasn't the post office as we thought. They weren't being slow, they didn't have anything to mail. So I wanted to make sure that council knew that as of Friday, I have a new printing service. So what I did is I reached out to Springbrook, which is the farm bias, and asked them which company would be the easiest to go with and which company to work with. And that turned out to be DataBar. And DataBar, actually, I have met the representative from that organization. They're trying for almost 8 years to get me to go to DataBar. And I realized last week that the holdup had always been that the manager didn't want to. I realized I'm the manager now, and maybe I can make that decision. So this business, there's twofold with this business. So in full honesty, you know that outsourcing green bills can be a heartache or a hardship for some people. They don't like it. They want to do it in-house. The cost that it would take to get all the equipment, to fold stuff, I mean, it's a lot. And I've done it in other cities. It's very, very expensive. You end up with 4 or 5 staff on the last day of the month trying to get 4,006 bills out. So I wanted us to have a solution that was going to benefit our city, and also I wanted them to do this and be able to do it to the October 30th. DAR has and already sent it. So they're ready to step in and take this over and make guarantees, lots of communication. With our other vendors, after the fact, I found out LC has the same vendor. And because there is this RCW that says any out-of-state bill mailers must give you 20 days after the date it's mailed, we have had to modify their due date for their bills every single month based on what day actually leave Portland, Oregon. So not only were we motivated to get a new vendor, but it also is better that Bar is located in Edgewood. And they mail their bills personally. They come in their own truck, either the Edgewood or City of Tacoma. And they send email confirmations that they went out. If there's an issue, they track it and they get a hold of the city, but either by phone. I wanted to reassure the public that the ASCO is not getting your bill. I hope will be solved. And the other thing I want to remind people is you can sign up for Express Bill Pay, and when you do that, you can view your bill on the 1st and pay your bill online if you so choose. But you can view also 24 months of bills. And so I encourage anyone that has a city bill to sign up for Express Bill Pay, to even just look at their bill before it's even due.
I was one of those people that called the city manager. I also signed up for this. I need to make any changes with the.
No, this is a separate company, so everything will work. And the nice thing about Express, it will also email you. It will tell you your bill is there. There's all kinds of features to sign up for notifications.
So after 15 years, I signed up for it. I did. It was really easy.
Good.
I've used it for a couple of years now, and I'm very happy with it. And the thing is, too, is people have asked me, so if you can't pay the whole thing, how do you do that on that? And you are able to select the amount you pay, so you don't automatically have to pay the entire bill every single month. I encourage you to do so. It starts to add up pretty quickly if you don't. But I understand some months are harder for some people. They don't necessarily. You are able to spread that out if you wish. So they have been extremely easy.
And with that, I will turn it over to police.
Thank you. Good evening. I really don't have a whole lot, just that we have a trunk or treat fix that'll be 5 o'clock in downtown, like it was back in the downtown area. Invite y'all to attend. Walk on through a little bit, and I think we have almost 50 trucks that have been registered, so that'll be a large show. Hopefully we'll see that. Thank you. Yes, sir.
How's our recovery now?
Doing well. Yeah, you can really come back. Obviously, our focus is in, so I'm just kind of waiting on that.
So I kind of mentioned about October 27th, I'm going to downtown. We're going to be doing a little on the small foster and Java. Signs. And you a little bit, so it's pretty good. Mentioned to you the code compliance stuff with orders that we've been given out.
Could you maybe speak?
Oh, sorry. For the townhouse already. Next month, I'm going to be bringing forward a couple ordinances. And then, looks like Country Dale Phase 1, so if you were all here when that kind of started, they submitted their final plat, or they're getting ready to submit their final plat for one. stretch of the road right there, so that's getting underway. Numbers of
I've been working on top is that budget, so please let me know if you guys have questions or concerns. But I do want to remind you that on Friday the 28th, is Halloween bazaar at the community center, and it sounds like there's going to be lots on the haunted hallway, walks around, and all kinds of fun. So enjoying the Parks and Recreation Department and kids, I think there's going to be lots of stuff for kids.
So last Thursday, I attended a, from those last days. We went there for, to see, the seed board went ahead and allowed us to do a $2 million. Of course, that project's just shy of $10 million. Conversation remains and working towards, I think, the same presentation for the board. $5 million on it.
I had a couple of things. Last week, I believe it, I think. We, city manager and Grandview leadership, stuff all that, on the 70-day road to Tucker Seller. Had, I guess, day. So we're hopefully get working on conceptual. Saturday, we were invited to send the ladder. And, like that. And then the trenching, I guess it will trenched it, with the help of Public Works, did a lot of the back truck, and then, Councilman Beaver, along with the little team back was, getting that up. And anyway, so I really appreciate that. So, plan was to put, conduit in the ground, and I think we just got a little part that, contractor that did the ramp for District 5 needs to fix, and it's right by the top of the pole. None of the rest of us are going around something. So once he does that, then we'll get that conduit in the ground. As far as the sign goes, we also approved that accept this grant and participate in this community survey. We met with the people from that program, Greater Columbia Local Community Health Project, and we think that they actually, the sign, if we put a reader board out there, they believe that's probably comfortable in those programs. So we need to go through the whole thing.
Question. Well, it's a little bit off topic from what you were talking about, but we heard from Chief Escalera that he's like got officers that are able to retire in the next while, and possibly two of them. How are you set on staffing? Are you firefighters low from where you want to be, and do you have officers or firefighters who are like retire or move on someplace else, or what's your situation?
We have announcements out there. We've been trying here looking for paramedics. As mentioned before, there's a real shortage of paramedics. We're looking at alternatives. Probably right now we have a advanced EP program. But it's sort of stopgap to give us the ability to not decrease our service. Utilize resources that we do that. So yes, we have positions open. We're still trying to fill those. For sure, hoping to fill one immediately. As far as the retirements go, I have two that are available. Now that we're working more and more and bringing our management capabilities sort of up to the day, he came to me recently and said that,
And Ms. Rodriguez told me she has that.
All right. Oh, there being no further business to come before us this evening, and without objection, we are adjourned at 8:04 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good night, everyone.
See you next week, Thursday.